Tiger fans, the Bombers have today announced that they're coming after some of the higher end picks that either Richmond or West Coast have, and they've been pretty outlandish and straight up front with everybody that they want to move up the draft order. There's obviously a player or two that they're targeting. They want to get into their club, and they're not ashamed to put that out on the table to try and make a deal happen. So I thought let's have a quick chat about it and see what that might look like for us. But I guess firstly, a lot of this is going to depend on who the player is that the Bombers wish to target. If the player they want to target is William Dersma, then that pretty much rules us out of the equation because I cannot see a world in which William Dersma gets through West Coast's first two picks, assuming they get pick 2 for Oscar Allen. I just don't see how he slides to our pick 3. So if they're after Dersma, then they would pretty much be exclusively working with West Coast in this scenario. But if West Coast don't want to entertain that idea, if they want Dersma, or if they're asking for too much and it can't be brokered, or if there's another player that Essendon are after that won't be taken at 1 and 2, then that's where working with us comes into play. And like I said, the Essendon have already reached out to Richmond and West Coast about this, so it's something that all clubs will be working through, no doubt. What does it look like for us? What are the implications? How can we benefit from it? They're probably the three main things we need to take a look at. I guess the first consideration, and this is probably the one that's going to hurt the supporters the most, is there is a strong possibility that the player that Essendon would want at our pick number 3, because that's the pick they'd be after from us, our first one, there's a strong chance that that player is Sullivan Roby. And I know that won't sit well with a lot of supporters. I know that a lot of people are really keen on getting Sullivan Roby in at the Tigers, but just it feels like that's the type of player they'd be jumping up the order to get. And the trade-off is we'll end up with another pick in the first round and you end up taking 3 first-rounders. And I guess if as a club we think that the players we can get are comparable, we don't miss out too much, it'll then make sense from a business standpoint to do it, but I will definitely understand the angst and potential frustration if we were to give up pick number 3 and Sullivan Roby to the Bombers. But maybe it's Xavier Taylor. That could be the other one that it could be as well that they've been strongly linked to as well. So there's a few names out there that it could be in relation to. But let's play out what it could look like and then talk about some of the players that we could still get even at these picks that it might come out as. So I think there's 2 potential trade options on the table. And look, from a Richmond supporter perspective, I know that we're all going to want Essendon's future first round pick. We'd all love it. I just don't think they're stupid enough to do that. I also don't think there's a trade that's able to be manufactured that's going to be fair for Essendon to accept. I cannot see a world in which, in dealing with these picks, that they give up a future first rounder. We'll happily take it. Don't get me wrong. I just don't see how that plays out. So for the sake of this exercise, I'm dealing just with the picks that both clubs have got this year. I just feel like that's the most probable way it's going to happen. Can obviously be well and truly proven wrong. But for the simplicity of the video, let's just use this year's picks. So I feel like there's 2 trade options that are possibly on the table for this. The first one would be Richmond trading out pick number 3, which would be at the first of our picks, and Essendon trading us pick number 6, which would be their second lot of their pick, and also pick number 21, which is what they have for Sam Draper-Compo. So I think it's at 20 currently, but it will be at 21 once the Oscar Allen one comes in. So that would then make a new draft order of number 1 West Coast, number 2 West Coast, number 3 Essendon, number 4 Richmond, number 5 Essendon, number 6 Richmond, and then we'd obviously have pick 21 as well a bit later on in the first round. So that's the alternate path where, we would alternate picks with the Bombers. So they would get access to their player at 3, and then we go, and then they go again. I guess we have to, I suppose, work out is there benefit in having back-to-back picks? Probably, but will Essendon want to part ways with the higher of their picks, so they're jumping up just 1 spot, or would they rather a 2-spot jump to make it worth their while? I suppose they're the real micro details that the clubs will have to work through. But the other trade option that would be available would be that Richmond trade out pick 3, our first pick, and Essendon trade us back pick 5 and also pick 21, which is that Draper-Compo pick. So that would then make the new draft order. First and second picks are West Coast, then Essendon would come in at number 3, then we would have 4 and 5, Essendon would come back in at 6, and then we'd obviously have pick 21 as well later on in the first round. I think I like the look of the second option better, where we get the back-to-back picks at 4 and 5, only because in option 1, you're still then open to Essendon taking a secondary player that we might have liked at pick 5 instead of us having control of that pick. However, you just don't know what kind of, I suppose, guidelines Essendon want to push when doing this. They may not want to get rid of their first pick to swap it because it's a smaller jump. They might only want to be dealing with their pick 6, which we don't know, but that's why it's good to play out both options. But in terms of player types and what that might mean, again, I do strongly think that if Essendon swap with us, I really do think it's in a push to get Sullivan Roby or Xavier Taylor, which it does feel like we are chasing all the same players. But even if that were the case, even if they did get Roby at 3, hypothetically speaking, and we still walk in with, let's say, pick 4 and 5, as per the second example, pick 4 and 5, on the basis that Dersma goes 1, CDT 2, Roby 3, that means you can still pick up a Dyson Sharp, a Sam Cumming, a Sam Grill. So he kind of comes into play if you're sort of pushing back down the order a little bit more. So that becomes some pretty good options that are still on the table. I know we're all very wanting Sullivan Roby, I get it, but you're not going to be disappointed if you're walking away with Dyson Sharp and Sam Cumming or a Sam Grill. And then on top of that, you've got your pick 21 later in the first round. So you get 3 picks in the first round to go along with the raft of first round picks we had last year. That's a pretty good foundation to build from. And I know people are going to say, oh, but the draft's weak. There's not much talent down at pick 21 or whatever that ends up being. But and this is why it's been such a good exercise to do all the mock drafts and all the power rankings, because I think that's shown that there's still talent available at that point of the draft. It's shown it's a bit more even. Obviously, it's not a top 10 talent, but I don't know whether there's much difference between what would be there at 8, 9, or 10 and what's going to be there at 21. I mean, some people have different views to that, and that's okay. But in terms of a player type, there could be a Noah Hibbins-Hargraves at pick 21. There could be a Javan Filippo at pick 21 who's athletically really gifted, as a huge ceiling, and someone may not have been prepared to take the punt on him earlier. There could be a Lockie Dobberson at pick 21. That might be a little bit more of a reach, but there's been mock drafts and power rankings where he's been down that far. So there's a chance that he could somehow end up there too. Ollie Greaves could potentially end up somewhere down in that space, even though some will say we've already got a similar player in Smiley, which is fair enough. Albeit I think Greaves is a bit shorter. It gives you something else to think about. There could be Harley Barker, who is a wingman from Sturt in South Australia. I've spoken about him before. I know he's going to miss the half of the year with his ACL, but similar to Taj Houghton, we're in a position where we can take those kind of calculated risks to get, if you get pick 21, it's a free hit. And Harley Barker, we need a wingman, right? We need a wingman, not for next year. We need a wingman for the next 10 or 15 years. And if you think about what that might look like in 3 to 5 years' time with Harley Barker doing his work on a wing, in a position that we're actually weak in at the moment, it's not a bad way to maybe make that happen. There could be a Riley Onley, who's another bigger midfielder who could be available, who's sort of fallen off everybody's radar, to be honest. He was sort of touted top 10 last year. I'm not sure why he slid so far, to be honest. I'm a little bit confused by that, but he could be another one that could be in the mix. All I'm saying is you end up with a third option that you didn't previously have that could give you a free hit to get someone with a really high ceiling that makes your side better in the long run. So whilst I know there's a lot of people that aren't liking or not wanting to do split picks, if something like this was to pop up, I think it has to be entertained. I think when you get a chance to add another first rounder into your draft ranks, almost regardless of the draft, I think you've got to do it. You got to set yourself up for the future. If we slide back one spot and we still get 2 good players at the top end of the draft and then a third one at the back end of the first, I think you walk away as a happy Richmond supporter. And I guess it just comes down to the blend of players that we can get in. So keen to hear everyone's thoughts on that. Which option would you prefer? Would you prefer option 1 or option 2? I think option 2 looks better visually and pick-wise, having the back-to-back picks. But some people, you might have methods for wanting the alternate picks. I'm keen to hear all about it in the comments below. What type of players, let's say hypothetically speaking, Sullivan Roby is off the table because Essendon take him with pick number 3. Who would you then want to target at pick 4 and 5? Give me some names that you'd be happy to take in. I think it allows us to get Grill. I think it allows us to get a Sharper coming, which would be awesome. And then if we had pick 21, who would you want to target with that pick as well? There's a little bit to think about in this one. So keen to hear all of your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you like and subscribe for more Richmond content. And until the next one, go Tigers.